results of a new study presented this week at the annual meeting of the Radiological Society of North America in Chicago shows that playing violent video games measurably alters the regions of the brain associated with cognitive function and emotional control after just 1 week. This is the first scientific evidence that violent video games actually do have a detectable effect on the brain. The fact that the areas affected appear to be related to cognitive function and emotional control are very concerning. The good news for parents is that the changes did diminish greatly after a week of not playing the games. But can you imagine the impact on a kid who regularly plays these games?
Video games and your kids. 97% of teenagers and preteens say they play them. About a third admit at least one of their favorites is rated mature or adults only, often because of the violent content. Well, a new study finds a link between violent games and aggressive behavior in children.
It has one limitation that we should note is that they only are relying on self-report. That means the kids are giving us the information. We're not getting information from teachers or from parents. But the kids are telling us that the longer they play and the more they play aggressive games, they start thinking in an aggressive way and they have more aggressive attitudes. That's not necessarily a link to violence, but that does tell us that the exposure, particularly for young kids, does have a negative effect in the way they think.
Any difference in boys and girls?
Surprisingly not, and that's the other nice part about this sample, is that it's girls and boys, ranging from 8 years to 17 years of age, and girls are just as sensitive to this as boys are.
What's the difference between watching violent movies? I mean, we have so much violence on television now. How is that any different than playing a violent video game?
I think there's a very big difference. It's almost a virtual reality kind of experience, and it's very different than when my kids were playing games. I mean, my kids are 25 to 30, and if you remember, like Pac-Man, you know, bing, bing, you know, you get so bored so quickly. But today, it's a very engaging, interactive experience, and that's what we have to be concerned about, because you're exposing kids to potentially very inappropriate material and also very aggressive material.